Today, we are going to design a lower kitchen cabinet for young children. Welcome to the Prepared Enough podcast. I'm your host, Natasha Mila, former teacher, mom of four, and firm believer that a well-prepared home can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. In this podcast, we'll explore ways to design organized, intentional spaces and rhythms that build your child's responsibility and bring more ease into your day. The simplest adjustments often make the biggest impact. We will chat all about the tiny tweaks you can make as your children grow. If you're ready for your home to work with you, not against you, you're in the right place. Hit follow and let's get started. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Prepared Enough. How are you? Are you drinking enough water? Eating enough snacks with protein? How is everybody feeling? There is some wretched bug going around our area that finally hit our house last week. Both of our daughters, they had half of their kids gone from their classrooms for a full week of school, like all 5 of the days. I'm not joking when I say half, meaning like a lot of kids. I literally mean that half of the kids in their class were out of school for 5 days straight. It was not really a matter of if the sickness would hit our house. It was just like a matter of when and how bad. But we are all doing fine, just a sickness, and I'm actually feeling just fine. I feel like mildly sick, but not really sick. So we're good. Okay, I do have to tell you a short story before we actually start the episode. There are a lot of people in my life that know that I have a podcast, but there are a lot of people in my life that do not. The very short story goes, we joined a new church with lots of new friends 2 years ago. None of them really have known that I have had this hobby on the side of my stay-at-home parent work. Well, a few weeks ago, someone leaked the information. And then this past week, a friend of ours, you know who you are, brought it to more people's attention. And now the secret is out. So, Jesse, if you haven't yet switched this podcast off and turned it back to a hunting podcast, just know that I blame you, and also know that the next cool thing you do will be put in the local paper as revenge. Anyway, this is all to say that I don't try to keep this space secret, but it just isn't super easy to bring up in casual conversation because of what I talk about, which sounds crazy, like I'm talking about something super controversial. I'm not. But I love to talk about home organization because I love home organization. I love organizing and making spaces functional and pretty. This is, however, part of homemaking, and homemaking of any sorts is like a sensitive topic because a lot of women, most women, place some sort of sense of identity there. And I usually don't bring the podcast up because I just don't want the women in my real life feeling some weird sense of inadequacy or something when it comes to their homes. Like some of my favorite humans that are friends or relatives, they keep their houses incredibly hospitable by just inviting everybody in. They are super relaxed about the mess, and they bring people into their homes, and they bring all of those people's messes into their houses at the drop of a hat. So they host like literally at any moment, no matter the state of things, without any shame. And they are like, they're not like constantly like, oh, don't mind the mess. They don't have those excuses. They just welcome people in. And I love this and I envy this because I struggle with this in so many ways. So long story short, we all have different gifts and strengths, and organizing and making spaces functional and pretty is one that I can claim that I'm good at. Hosting with an entire sense of ease is not one that I'm good at. I am always like, oh, kind of hesitant when I host people because I know how much cleanup I'm going to have to do because I'm way too particular about my house. And so, we all have different strengths, okay? All right, moving on to the podcast. This month in March here on the podcast, we are in the kitchen. Today, we are talking about designing a lower kitchen space for younger children to help them contribute to kitchen work. And next week, we're going to chat about some kitchen-related routines and habits that we can instill in our young children. So I know I preach this often, but just having your home organized specifically in ways that encourage your kids to be helpful and contribute is going to naturally help your children grow into more cooperative and helpful kids. And thus, it's going to save you some sanity as the parent because you're not going to have to train with your voice all the time, and you're going to allow your environment that you've set up to do some of the training. So you want to train your children, right? But like the more you want to use the environmental setup and not so much of the nagging voice all the time, right? So this is just one of those little spaces that can help you do that. So we're going to design a lower kitchen cabinet. First, why do you need a low reachable kitchen kid space? Okay, I suppose we can also ask this question in another way. Essentially, what is the end goal when it comes to training our kids in the kitchen? Obviously, fully independent, running their own kitchen as an adult is the end goal, right? This means that kids are going to benefit from using a space that has reachable items and participating in like different smaller areas of the kitchen when they are younger, so to build on that independence that is already instilled as they get a little bit older, right? Now, I am going to be the first one to admit that I am not the greatest at releasing control to my children in the kitchen. There are just a lot of things about cooking and cleaning up that take less time if I, quote unquote, just do it myself. Thinking through both this episode that I'm recording currently and next week's episode has been a good wake-up call to myself to release some more control to my children in the kitchen. It is really easy as a mother to feel kind of like a short order cook, though, in the kitchen for your children because they're like constantly asking for snacks and food and snacks and snacks and snacks, and they need help cooking things and getting things and cleaning things and opening things and wiping hands and faces and cleaning up the crumbs made, etc., etc., etc. So you're just like in the kitchen all the day long. So in this episode, we're going to relieve some of that stress by giving your children more access in the kitchen, which kind of, in the very beginning when they're training, when they're like learning how to use this space where they have more access and they're still kind of toddlers or whatever, even if they're a little bit older and they haven't had access to materials before, it is going to take a second for them to get used to it. And they are going to, take some time to get to that point where they're more independent and actually relieving you of some of the stress in the kitchen. But it is going to be worth it. Okay, so we're going to actually move on in this podcast to creating this lower cabinet kid access space. I don't really know what to call it. I feel like I'm throwing out a million words to title this space. It's just like a reachable space for your kids. Okay, so where are you going to create this kid accessible kitchen space? A lower cabinet is one option. Lower drawers is another option. A small sideboard kid cabinet of their own. A low shelving area of sorts. It doesn't really matter exactly where it is, so long as it is in the kitchen. It's low, reachable, and accessible for your kids. So that means like if you have drawers that are really hard to open, that would not be a very good spot to put it because if the kids can't open the drawer, it's not accessible, right? So it needs to be in a space where they can open a drawer or open the cabinet door without needing any help. Okay, so that's where you should put it. Anywhere that they can reach. What to include? I am going to list a few things that you might consider including. Know that we don't personally have all of these things actually inside of our kid cabinet space, but we have a lower kid cabinet is what we have in our house. But we also have some of these items spread out throughout the kitchen, just also in accessible places for our kids. And it just worked out that way, like for napkins to be in a drawer or something like that. So you just use your space to your own advantage. But yeah, so it doesn't actually have to be all in one space, but these are some things that you might want to think about having your children be able to have access to and know where these items are so that you can say, go grab XYZ. Okay, so first thing, kid plates. These would just be like normal plates. but just maybe kid-sized, whatever you use for your kids. They don't have to be plastic. We have glass plates for our kids. And so, sometimes people will say, like, make sure nothing breakable is down low. But I have had 4 children go through baby years with these breakable plates on a low shelf, and nobody has dropped one of them. So sometimes, like, a 1-year-old will pick a plate up and then we just tell them to put it down, and we just do that several times, and then they're, trained not to pick it up and stuff. And this isn't going to work for every kid. I know that. But I'm just saying it is possible to potentially have kids that aren't going to be dropping plates. If you have a really crazy kid, or you just have a kid maybe that isn't really training that easily at this moment in their life, you might just use plastic plates or something, or keep the kid plates up and just put other things down low for them at the time. Okay, so kid plates, kid bowls. This is just like kid-size bowls if you have any. Kid-size utensils. We just use, like, I actually don't know the proper term. I need to apparently go to finishing school or something, because I think there's like dinner forks. I might be totally wrong when I say this. Dinner forks and like salad forks, or are those the same size? And then there's like a dessert fork that's smaller. I don't know. Okay. Please forgive me. But you know how you have like big forks and little forks all in like one set of forks, spoon of silverware. So we use like the little forks mostly for our older kids, but when they're 1 year old babies, those ones are still kind of big. And so we actually have like toddler sized silverware, and I will link to this toddler sized silverware where we got it from. I'm trying to remember the name of the company. I think it's like Small Hands, something like that. It's a little Montessori company, and we really like it. We've used it for all the kids, but I did buy it like almost more than 7 years, maybe 7+ years ago now. So before we had our first kid. So it's been a while since I bought it. So I'll have to go back and find and see if they still have it, and I'll link to it if they do. Otherwise, I'm also sure that nowadays they probably just have the same stuff on Amazon. Honestly, back then they didn't have that kind of stuff, but I feel like it's more of an interest of people now. So yeah. Okay. So kid-sized utensils. So we got plates, we've got bowls, we've got utensils, napkins. You might want to consider keeping down low. Now, for a time, we did have like kid napkins that were like fun colors, and now just for the sake of keeping everything in one place, we just have one set of napkins, and they're kind of more boring. But so napkins we have in a different space in our personal house, but you can keep little cloth napkins or something in your kid cabinet. So that they can help set the table. Kid knives. I will link to the ones we have that I know a lot of other people love. They're those little plastic ones. They're just off of Amazon. They're great, though. They come in a couple different sizes, and they don't really cut your fingers per se. I mean, they would like slice it, but they're not going to like chop your finger off. But they definitely work to cut some food items. So I will link to those kid knives. They are I would say totally safe. Obviously little accidents can happen, but pretty much safe to keep in your kid cabinet without any worry. And then kid cups. So I'm going to just go backwards really quick. You can include other knives in there if you have like older children and whatnot. But just note that whatever is included in your kid cabinet space should be accessible to all the children that you have using that space, and safe for them to use all the time without adult supervision, so that you just don't have to worry about it. It's just a space they can access. They don't have to ask you for like the items from inside of that space. Now, that doesn't really go for snacks. We'll get to that in a second though. Okay, kid cups or mugs you might consider keeping in there if you guys use cups or mugs for hot chocolate or whatnot. Any extra kid water bottles or other cups that you use, like sippy cups or whatever you want your kids to be able to get and bring to you. Kid snacks. Now, I'm going to link to another podcast episode in the show notes. I did a full episode on creating a kid snack cabinet that I think you would really like to listen to if you haven't already listened to it, and you're thinking about creating this space. This one kind of goes really, really hand in hand with that. But yeah, so this would be kind of an area where you'd probably want some boundaries if you include snacks in the area. You might consider adding towels for cleanup or other kid cleaning items that they might use. Maybe wet wipes to wipe their hands and face. We have these just in a different spot because we have a 1-year-old and I don't like 1-year-olds ripping all of the wet wipes out of the container. And they do that often. And so we have ours with stool access up on top of our counter. You might consider including lunch boxes or snack containers if you're going to have an older child pack their own snacks or help with packing their lunches and whatnot. And you also might consider rearranging part of your refrigerator to include some lower snack items and whatnot. But again, that's kind of that is also inside of that snack, kid snack episode that I'm going to tell you to go listen to if you haven't listened to it already. Okay, so those items are all going to help your child become more independent in the kitchen. So it's helpful to imagine your child kind of like on a journey of independence in all areas of the kitchen, all the areas that they like still need your help in. So they're going to gain independence like setting the table, cutting food items, filling their own cups and water bottles, getting snacks, helping cook meals, helping clear plates and do the dishes and helping clean up. And now all of those things are not going to happen immediately, but they're going to happen over time with progression, right? So we are going to talk more about kitchen routines and training helpfulness in the kitchen on the next podcast episode. But yeah, so I'll save a lot of the routine type of things for next week. But every time you kind of have an item more accessible and more available for that child, for your child to practice independence, you are just inching, they're going to naturally want to be independent. And you're just kind of inching closer and closer to less parental interruption and a more like cohesive family unit of everybody just kind of getting what they need and helping each other out instead of just you, the adult, solely helping the children every time, right? So everybody's kind of going to be helping each other do all the things in the kitchen. Okay. We're moving on in a second, but I'm chuckling because I have had to stop recording this podcast episode like 4 different times because my children were coming to ask to help wipe butts, and they needed waters, and they needed all these things. I just sometimes like to pop this into podcast episodes so that you can remember that I am a normal human who has children that are around my house while I'm recording these podcast episodes. I don't have like a fancy studio that I'm recording these in. I'm on my kitchen counter and I'm like, everybody be quiet as they can. Okay, so now they're scooching some stool upstairs and it's very loud. Sometimes I don't know if you can hear any of that in the audio recording, but I go back and I like listen to parts of the audio recording, but I don't have time to like re-listen to the entire podcast. I know where I needed to like edit something out or whatnot. So sometimes those kind of noises, I'm like, I don't know if that made it in the audio. Okay, moving on. How to organize a lower kitchen cabinet. So you have all the items that we just listed all the items that we're going to put inside of this cabinet. And then you might consider organizing it with these kind of items. So think shallow bins or baskets, something that's low so the kids can see inside of it, not something that's hiding the items that are inside, unless you want it for that. Because sometimes we have to store things that we don't necessarily always want our kids to have access to. And in that case, a high bin or basket would actually be good to use so that it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. But generally speaking, for the accessible spaces, you're going to want lower rised bins or baskets. You might consider clear containers so they can just see right inside despite the height and whatnot. Simple categories, so you're going to organize like with like. So like all the cups are going to go in the same area, not necessarily, you don't have to have everything in containers, but just in the same area. You're going to have plates with plates and bowls with bowls and utensils all in the same cup and whatever. Things like that. It would obviously make sense to do that, and you're not just going to like put it all willy-nilly. Most likely, I guess. All right, and keeping the space decluttered as usual. Less variety means faster decisions and better cleanup, right? And visual order. So it's just inviting for the child. You want your kids to be excited about their space. And so if it's just all crazy in there, it's going to be a little bit more overwhelming. And visual order is calming and inviting for a child. Okay, teaching kids how to use the lower cabinet. Okay, so you're going to introduce them to everything inside of the cabinet. So all the items inside you're going to want to introduce them to, even though they can see it themselves. It's not that self-explanatory. You are going to want to show them where everything is and where everything goes back to. And you're going to want to, this introduction part is going to happen slowly, and you're probably going to need to repeat it multiple times. Like if you're asking for help putting the dishes away, then you're going to need to remind them where those dishes go multiple times until they really got it down. Use guided practice. So that's that we do method. So if you're asking them to do a routine, you're going to obviously help them with that routine to begin with, because they're not going to know how to do it. If you're just like, go grab, X, Y, Z and set the table, they're not going to know how to set the table, right? So you're going to be like, okay, go to your kid cabinet. You're going to need to get out 4 plates, and you're going to have to tell them how many, because they probably never thought about the fact that there's, 4 people or 6 people, however many people are in your family, so you're going to need to tell them that, like, you need this amount of plates, and all those things. So yeah, use guided practice for the using part of this lower cabinet. Teach over time. So like teaching them their skills over their ages, like it's going to evolve. The routines are going to evolve with their age. If you may ask them for help with silverware to start. So you're going to say to a little 2-year-old, like, oh, could you help go grab me 4 forks, something like that. And then maybe you add on, could you grab 4 forks and 4 plates and 4 napkins? And then you can ask them for help getting a cup, maybe, ask them when they're little, can you go get me a cup to fill with water? And later they can fill it themselves. Things like that. So these are boundaries. You're going to enforce boundaries that might be different for different aged children who all have access to the same materials in the same cabinet space, in the same space. So yeah, you're just going to have to kind of enforce those boundaries in different ways depending on the ages of your kids in your house and what they're able to do and not able to do. Teaching boundaries around snacks is going to be important too. Again, that if you want to listen to that snack video or audio, that would be great, because I think we talk about that in there. But yeah, you're gonna just let them know what they can always have if you have snacks in that space, what snack items they're always able to grab, what they might sometimes be able to grab, and what they have to ask for. We have like our snack cabinet, and generally speaking, we keep snacks that I'm okay with them having at any moment, but I shouldn't say that. I'm okay with them having them as a snack all the time. However, not at any time. So they do have to ask if they can have a snack, and then they can go grab whatever they'd like out of the cabinet. Okay. So, and then adapting the cabinet by age. This isn't necessarily necessary. I feel like I just said necessary like 8 times in a row. But it would work if you only had one kid using the cabinet. So, for example, if you had just a 1-year-old using the cabinet, you might consider just putting out what they're going to use. So maybe you just put out bowls and toddler utensils and maybe 1 basket of snacks and things that they could like grab for you to help them with. And then as they get older, you can add more items depending on what routines you want their help with. So yeah. So that is pretty much it on creating a lower cabinet of sorts in the kitchen for your children. I really hope you love creating this space if you haven't created one already. And if you have created one already, I hope that maybe you found some little tidbit in this podcast episode that you never thought of before or something like that. So yeah, and I hope that you love what it does for your family. I really hope it encourages your children to contribute and take responsibility. I hope that it reminds you as the parent to allow for that contribution. Speaking to myself, in working with kids for many years, I usually see that when the kids are kind of trusted with access to things, they really do rise to the responsibility. I am usually the problem as the adult, being the one like hindering that responsibility. Like I'm just like, I need full control over this. And I have a problem releasing the control over to the child, even though they're totally able to be responsible with the task. So yeah, that's something I struggle with. But having kind of the visual space set up for that does really help me allow for that contribution more. All right. Well, I would love to hear from you if you create a new kitchen space, and I would love to hear what worked for you. I finally did it. I created a SpeakPipe account after copycatting Nancy Ray. She's another podcaster that I listen to all the time. She has a podcast called Work and Play. If you don't listen to it, go do that. She's great. So you can just go and record whatever you want to say to me and send it my way. You're probably like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But it's so fun. Just do it. I'm going to peer pressure you into it. I'll listen to it and I'm not going to be weird about it. I don't think I can respond or anything. It's just listening to it. So that's it. Anyway, it's just like an easy way to send an email. Essentially, it takes 2 seconds because you just record it on your phone or whatever and then press send. You don't even have to include your name or your email or anything. It's like totally anonymous unless you want to tell me who you are. Then you can like fill it in, but both of those are optional. So anyway, all right, I'll link to that. You should do it and say hi because I think it's fun. All right, I will see you back in 2 weeks when we chat about kitchen routines and habits for our children. So see you in 2 weeks. Talk soon. Drink water. Eat snacks. Tash.